Do you think you know a lot about men and women? Answer true or false for these statements. Then check your answers with the results of gender studies. 1. Women talk more than men. 2. Women tend to worry more than men. 3. Men are more truthful than women. 4. Men are more easily bored than women. 5. Women have a greater tolerance for pain. 6. Women live longer than men.
I think women talk much more than men.
That's just a stereotype, though I do think women talk more than men about certain things.
Like what?
Women like to talk about their feelings, but men usually don't.
Men'd rather talk about sports or cars.
Typical.
1. The common stereotype that women talk more than men is wrong. In fact, recent research shows that there is very little gender difference in how much people speak. Some research suggests that men tend to speak more than women in formal settings, and that women speak more in informal situations. One study revealed that women speak an average of about 16,000 words a day, and men do too. 2. Studies show that women worry more frequently and more often than men. This may be due to the fact that women's brains produce less of a brain chemical called COMT, which controls anxiety. Having less of this chemical can make it harder for a person to stop worrying. 3. Women lie frequently, and men do too. However, research shows that women and men tend to lie about different things. Women are more likely to lie in order to try to not hurt a person's feelings. They are also more likely to lie to try to avoid a conflict. However, you are more likely to be told a lie by a man for a different reason. Men more often lie in order to make themselves seem more impressive. 4. Studies show that men have more restless temperaments than women. For example, women seem to have a capacity to adjust to repetitive tasks, but men don't. They dislike being asked to do such tasks and are less likely to successfully complete them. It is speculated that women do better in these situations because they have a greater ability to keep their thoughts and imagination active, even during tedious activities. 5. Many people assume that since women have babies and men don't, women probably have a greater ability to deal with pain. However, the research seems to indicate that, due to their body chemistry, women actually have lower tolerance for pain. During recovery after surgery, women tend to experience pain with greater frequency and intensity than men do. 6. Women outlive men all around the world, sometimes by an average of as much as 10 years. For example, in the U.S., the average life expectancy is about 79 for women, but only 72 for men. The gap is largest among people who live to be 100 or older. Worldwide, among people 100 or older, women outnumber men 9 to 1.
I don't know why Google Maps can't find Lakeside Drive.
I think we'd better stop and ask directions.
Don't worry, I'm sure I can find it. Let's try going this way.
I think we're lost. Look, there's a gas station. Let's pull over and ask someone.
Oh, all right.
You look lost.
You can say that again. We're looking for Lakeside Drive.
I know this town like the back of my hand, and I can tell you that there's no street by that name. Do you mean Riverside Drive?
Oh, yeah, that must be it. I just got the street name wrong.
Can you tell us how to get there?
It's not far. It's just over on the other side of town. You need to turn left out of here. Then go straight for a couple of miles. Keep going until you see an ice cream shop. If you pass Town Hall, you've gone too far. Take the first left after the ice cream shop, and you'll be on Riverside Drive.
Thanks.
I guess it's a good thing I suggested we stop for directions. We would have been driving in circles for ages.
Don't make a big deal about it. I'm sure I would have figured it out eventually.
Good morning and welcome to AM Chat. I'm your host, Ken Larder, and today we're talking with Kevin Shields, the author of Young and Mature Drivers, Driving Each Other Crazy, a fascinating new book about the sometimes incompatible differences between young and older drivers. Kevin, good morning, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ken. Glad to be here.
Kevin, I want to begin by asking you about one of the major issues the book focuses on, the difference between younger and older drivers' approach to danger while driving. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, I'd be happy to. It's long been suspected that men of different generations have different ways of reacting to obstacles and potential dangers. Research has indicated that these differences are probably real. They reveal that experienced drivers tend to have a better sense of the parameters involved in each situation and react intuitively.
So, this means that experienced drivers have better reflexes, doesn't it?
Certainly not. Experienced drivers simply have encountered similar obstacles or dangers before and have developed a number of strategies. Intuition, as we all know, often has to do with accumulated knowledge and a range of experiences. Younger drivers normally have faster reflexes, but they need to process all the information on the spot and make a decision that they have probably not had to make before. So, it is a more conscious process in their case that sometimes increases stress or fear depending on the individual.
So then, it seems neither group has a total advantage in such cases, do they?
Well, the strategies experienced drivers use does give them an advantage when having to regain control of the car or dealing with spillage that makes the road slippery or driving on ice.
I remember hearing that experienced drivers usually have lower car insurance premiums than new drivers. That's true, isn't it?
Yes, it is, provided that the experienced driver has a clean record with no major accidents.
That's a bit unfair for new drivers, isn't it? I mean, it makes it considerably more expensive for a younger person who really doesn't earn much, if they have a job.
Not really. While young drivers have quicker reflexes, they also tend to take greater risks and get into more accidents. Older drivers are more cautious, and so get into fewer accidents. So new drivers have their strengths, and experienced drivers do too. Each group deserves to be given credit for what they do well.
So each group is the better driver in their own way, aren't they?
Exactly.
1. So this means that experienced drivers have better reflexes, doesn't it?
2. So then it seems neither group has a total advantage in such cases, do they?
3. That's true, isn't it?
4. That's a bit unfair for new drivers, isn't it?
5. So each group is the better driver in their own way, aren't they?
Do men and women speak the same language? The difference in the ways that men and women communicate has been the subject of countless books, magazine articles, talk show discussions, and jokes. These differences can sometimes make men and women seem mysterious to each other and can occasionally make communication difficult and confusing. People often jokingly say that men and women are from different planets, or that they are different species. But just what are these communication differences, and what is their cause? One basic reason men and women have such different ways of communicating is that they see the purpose of communication differently. Research shows that women use communication as a way of growing closer to people and establishing intimate relationships. Women tend to use language to share thoughts and feelings and to be supportive. Meanwhile, men tend to see the goal of communication as accomplishing a task. Men most often use language to persuade, argue, convey facts, and demonstrate knowledge. Although men do not tend to use communication to achieve closeness, they have their own way of bonding. In one study, 75% of the men surveyed said that their most meaningful experiences with friends came not through talking, but through shared activities. In a related study, researchers found that fathers tend to show affection to sons by helping them with tasks and challenges. Javier Morales' experiences certainly support this idea. Says Morales, "My dad and I are really close, but I wouldn't say we talk very much. We spend a lot of time together doing things. We spent all of last Saturday repairing my car, and this week we're going hiking together. My dad and I have a deep bond. Just because we're not talking doesn't mean we're not sharing important time together." The content of what males and females talk about tends to be different as well. Researcher Deborah Tannen has found that while feminine talk tends to focus on feelings, relationships, and people, masculine talk tends to focus on sports, the economy, and facts. Women talk to explore problems, but men do not. Instead, men talk to fix problems. This can sometimes cause problems in communication. Janet West, a freshman in college, remembers encountering this issue recently. "I told my brother Derek about a problem I was having with my studies. He immediately came up with possible solutions to the problem. Being told how to fix the problem was kind of frustrating because it wasn't what I was looking for. I asked him to stop trying to fix the problem and try talking with me about it instead. He seemed completely confused and said, 'Why bother talking about a problem unless you're trying to find a solution to it?'" Another way in which men and women differ is in the way they listen. Research has shown that men tend to place all of their attention on one thing at a time, but women do not. Instead, women commonly divide their attention between a number of things at once and make connections between these different things. Since this comes so easily to women, they are sometimes frustrated when men struggle to do this. For example, a common complaint among women is that when a man is watching television, He often doesn't hear a question asked by the person sitting right beside him. Sakura Kumi has witnessed this many times in her house. Sakura says, "My mother used to get so frustrated trying to get my father's attention while he was watching TV, and I did too. So she got into the habit of standing in front of the TV and saying, 'Hiroshi, I'm about to ask you a question.' It's become sort of a family joke." Research has shown that these communication differences can be partially explained by the different ways in which the male and female brains are structured and wired. For example, the left side of the brain, where logic and literal thinking are processed, tends to be stronger in men. Meanwhile, women tend to think with the right side, which is where comprehension is processed. The female brain also has more connections between the right and left sides, so their thought process is likely to be more complex. Research has also shown that the different ways that boys and girls are raised has a significant impact on how they communicate. Girls are raised to recognize and be sensitive to the feelings of others. On the other hand, boys are taught to be more direct and goal-oriented. Being raised in such different ways is bound to create two different styles of communication. While the differences in the way men and women communicate can sometimes cause confusion, these differences are also what help maintain a balance in communication. It ensures that a variety of topics and viewpoints are explored, feelings are expressed, and problems are discussed and solved. This balance is what makes communication so rich and interesting.
Verbal and nonverbal communication. When people talk about communication, the first thing that comes to mind is words or language. Language is our primary means of communication as human beings, which sets us apart from other species. However, as studies have shown, it is not the only means of communication. Think about a photograph taken in the center of a town. It provides information about the buildings, stores and services, people and cars, plants, and all kinds of details if you choose to take the time to look at it more carefully. Now try describing the picture and everything you have identified in it to your friend, or write about it. How long do you think it's going to take you? Certainly a lot longer than it takes a photo to convey the same amount of information. Suppose that you have just acquired the latest electronic gadget. Would you choose to tell your friend about it or show it to him or her? Usually, we choose to do the latter, i.e., show it to somebody and point out all the new amazing features. In other words, pictures and objects can speak for themselves more efficiently and effectively than we can through verbal language. However, there are situations where a different type of interaction is required, when, for example, you run into somebody you have not seen for some time. You probably want to talk about everything that has happened, ask him or her questions, and talk about people you know, and so on. This is definitely a case that requires verbal language. On a partly different note, you see a friend you have not seen for some time at a distance. For example, different escalators at the airport leading to different lounges. You have both checked through security and cannot go back, and you certainly don't want to start shouting across the airport building. You want to get his or her cell phone number. You probably resort to gesturing by holding your hand next to your ear and pretending to talk. You point to the phone, point to your friend, and use a hand gesture to signal what, pointing back to the imaginary phone. Your friend signals each number by holding up the appropriate number of fingers. In other words, although language is important and allows us to communicate facts, feelings, thoughts, experiences, and practically everything and anything that we are interested in, it is not the only way we communicate with each other. As studies have shown, about 60% of human communication is carried out through nonverbal means, for example, facial expression, gestures, or illustration. Maybe we should keep this in mind when we are at a loss for words. Our eyes and overall expression can convey what we cannot express through words.